Broncos news. It's time for Bourbon, Broncos, and No BS, where, guys, we are giving it our best shot. This is season 9 of what you got going on here, Bourbon, Broncos, No BS. Guys, how y'all doing? It is time to talk Seahawks and Broncos. Glad you're all here with us tonight. We got Spotty, we got David, we got special guest Cody, the resident in-house expert Seahawks fan. So thanks for joining us, man. Glad you're here, even though you're driving. Just drive safe.
Yeah. I'm focused.
So now you got that on tape. So if anything happens, you can't say that, I told you, drive safe.
Full disclosure first.
I'm just trying to get there as quickly as possible so I can join in on the bourbon part of the show.
There you go. I love it.
Absolutely right.
Tracy, how you doing? Guys, this is awesome. This is our 9th year. Crazy you've been doing this. Start posting your your Broncos comments and questions. If you have questions, comments about bourbon, then that's fine too. I guess it's in our title, so we could do that.
Oh, I've got takes.
But we're gonna
trust me, I've got takes.
We might have some time for those at the end. We'll see. But before we get into the conversation, there's a little bit of a tradition here at Bourbon Broncos No BS where we do a little bit of a rewind. And unfortunately, Jared's not here with us right now as he's off protecting the country. But I think it's important that we go back and look at one of the first shows we did and kind of just what it looked like and how bad it was really is what we're looking at here. So,
Kev Dan, did you shrink? You might have gotten.
I don't know if I shrunk. Jared, I think, eventually learned how to smile and
that's
be a
it.
person.
It's not so much that it's not so much that he didn't know how to smile. It's just that he clearly doesn't know what to do with his face while he's on camera, and I appreciate that about him.
I'll just keep my hands up here. Yeah. So look, guys, this is crazy. 9th year. Glad to be doing it. Glad to be here with everybody. And hopefully this time next week we'll be talking about a Broncos win. But there's a lot of stuff to break down, guys. Preseason is over. Regular season is here. So let's get down into it. Victor, Tracy, glad you're here so far. My head it's because I have a beard now. It looks smaller. Either that or my ego's deflated a bit. I don't know. One or both. Well, guys, let's just go around the horn with some kind of opening thoughts about where the Broncos are right now and what you think. And then we'll go to Cody with the same thing for the Seahawks. But David, man, where are the Broncos at? What are we thinking? What are we liking? What are some of your concerns going in this game and anything like that?
All right. First things, let's start with the good, because I think there's a lot of good going into this Broncos with the season with this Broncos team. I think it is a team equipped to surprise casual observers. I think it's a team that is going to be an 8 or 9 win team when the season comes out on the other side. As opposed to the prognosticators who have this as a 5 or 6 win team. I don't see that outcome as a real possibility. And I think they have a real chance to go into Seattle week 1 and surprise. And, and Cody, no offense, it's not the Seahawks of old where you had the Legion of Boom defense and Russell Wilson in his prime, but it is still a very formidable Seahawks team, I would think, that is, with Mike McDonald coming in his first year well coached. I think the Broncos keep this close at the very end, and I think it's going to be a theme we're talking about all season with this team is they're going to be in every single game. No matter the opponent, I truly believe the Broncos are going to be in every single game this season. Like I said, I don't think they're going to win, 11 to 15 games or anything like that. But I think it's a roster that is more talented than people think, and a team that is ready to surprise with some wins that I don't think people outside the organization are expecting them to come away with.
I like it. Spotty, what do you think, man?
Start of the youth movement for the Denver Broncos. We finally get a glimpse of, no one has said it, but the rebuild that we have all been graciously waiting for since Peyton Manning decided to put up the laces. So I think it's more or less just more something exciting for us to get to see. The start of this week 1, we know that what we are going to get a look at right now is probably still just a glimpse of Sean Payton's plan. And I don't believe any of the last couple or at least last year was nothing of it. We know with the situation that was coming in with Russell, and it wasn't there was a lot of talk about the Broncos and negative relationships and who got their own meeting room, whose posse was around, and we honestly didn't have any of that this last year. It was clear cut. The biggest storyline for us all summer long was who was going to end up being a starting quarterback, and we found that out real quick, which
Right.
is probably the most exciting thing about all of this. So to see the first round pick, I mean, when was the last time we even had a first round pick start week 1, of course, being John Elway, and even how many first round picks have they even had starts for us over the last 8 years. So I'm excited to see that. I'm excited to see what the plan will be. I would truly say that this might be a better matchup for us right off the bat to go against Seattle. It's not exactly that Seattle's in a rebuild. They've had some parts there, and they've been working on that defense. But this is the first time the head coach is going to be with them, and we might have actually caught them at the perfect time as the first game of the year, where you really don't know what's going to happen. First couple of games of the year. I mean, even take the last year's matchup against Seattle. Last year's matchup, yeah, where 2 years ago, where I mean, it ended up just being right near the end, and neither team knew exactly what they had, and it wasn't really a foray for the year. So I think this is just the perfect time to be coming up against the Seahawks, and I think we're going to get a good look of how the season's going to go for us.
Awesome. Well, Cody, and then over to you, man. So for us, in Broncos country, I mean, we're used to the Pete Carroll Seahawks, right? Like that's when you think of them, you hear Seahawks, you think of Pete Carroll, right?
Yeah,
now that's not
absolutely.
there. Mike McDonald. So first time head coach, defensive side of the ball. I mean, what are you guys hearing and seeing from him, and what are things looking like out in Seahawks land?
Well, obviously, with being Seattle, former Legion of Boom, we're excited to have a defensive coach. With Mike McDonald coming from Baltimore, that's really, really exciting. As you had mentioned prior about, we're going to be able to surprise people because we don't know what we're going to get. New culture, new everything. Offensively, we have pretty much all the same pieces. It's going to be, we're excited with the running backs room with Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker, wide receivers. I mean, I don't think anybody would complain about having DK, Tyler Lockett, and the kid from Ohio State, whether or not, and then his second year of growth. And then, your guys' former player, we're always still waiting on Noah Fant to explode at some point. I would love for him to be the red zone threat that we brought him in to be, from that lovely trade we've had a few years back. And he's still there, and somehow Seattle always has competitive tight ends. So, offensively, we're great. And it's just now whether or not our defense can decide if we want to stop people. We have talent all the way across. We got, our cornerbacks, our Seattle cornerbacks, they're dogs, they're lanky, they're tall, they're fast. It's just whether or not they'll stay in front of them.
Right. Yeah.
And hopefully Mike McDonald can fix that, But, I mean, really excited to play you guys always. And you guys are in a fun era now. As you guys talked about the youth movement, you got a rookie quarterback. That's some of the, best times and scariest times as a, NFL fan as a rookie quarterback.
Oh, yeah.
He's going to do some things that are great. And, I'm familiar with him being an Oregon kid. I've seen that guy dominate games, and he has a lot of talent. And Sean Payton believes in him, so perfect. You no longer have quarterback drama. Wonderful. Nobody likes that. The Russell Wilson effect of always being something is now gone.
Yeah.
We dealt with that. Y'all dealt with that. And now you guys move forward. So it's, and it's an exciting matchup. And exactly, we're, week 1, nobody knows what we're going to get. And we just finally get some football. And hopefully it's a fantastic matchup. And of course, I hope we come out on top. But I think it's going to be an excellent game. I'm always terrified of your running backs, especially your guys' lead guy. I feel like he's been kind of gone under the radar, because coming back from injury last year and did actually fairly decent, but still getting his footing. Well, now he's got the whole offseason and he's ready to go. And Seattle seems to have a real hard time stopping the run. So
Denver too last year.
No lie.
In the NFL, if you don't stop the run, that makes it a hard day at the office when you can control the clock.
Every
so
time.
We'll see what happens. We'll see whose running game reigns supreme.
Right.
Absolutely.
And David's probably one of your take on that too. Like looking at I guess we could start at looking at our run defense. I know we've talked about, during this offseason and preseason, how we've kind of bolstered that, right? When you look at the matchups there between what the Broncos have and what the running backs are in Seattle, who do you favor in that matchup? Or is it just, because of the youth and the moves we've made, it's just too early to tell?
David?
I think it's too early to tell. And it's just, I hate to throw the week one, we don't know anything excuse at all questions here this evening, but that is going to be kind of part of it, right? Because we don't know anything right now about what these two teams are going to be. With the weapons that Seattle has at running back, and especially with the improvements that they've made to an offensive line that was shaky for years, right, Cody? Like, to say the least, it was shaky for years. Yeah. But over the last couple of seasons, I really feel like they've solidified at that position. You bring in the two young tackles last year that, you had Lucas, and now I can't remember the other. What's the other ones?
You got Lucas, and then is it Cross? Yeah, Cross.
Yeah, right.
Like that.
Yeah,
Cross,
Lucas and Cross.
From Mississippi State.
Right. And both of whom had moments last year, but I think that really takes that Seattle run game to another level, right? And you were talking about the weapons a little bit with Walker and Charbonnet. It's going to be a really good challenge at the very least for this quote unquote revamped Broncos front. Now, I will say the guys they added on that front are dogs. The guys they added on that front are veterans, not just like a promising rookie who flashed in preseason. You got Malcolm Roach, Jonathan Franklin Myers coming in. You got DJ Jones, who is a decent, at the very least, run defender in his history when he is allowed to play in position, sliding back into his regular position there. I think that there's a real chance for this Broncos run front to be much improved, even if the inside linebackers you've got are Alex Singleton, who is best when he is making the second attempt at a tackle for your team, as opposed to the first attempt to tackle for your team, and Cody Barton, who's best, the best attribute he has is probably as a pass defending linebacker. So even with those inside linebackers, I think you're looking at a better Broncos run defense than you saw last year.
You kind of sure hope so, considering that it felt like last year at one point we were giving up about 5 yards to carry. Now, I could be wrong about this, but I also believe that Seattle's run game wasn't super efficient. At least Kenneth Walker wasn't a super efficient running back last year. So that can kind of help us out a little bit. But of course, it's making sure the right players are in the right spot. Every right linebackers are in the right gap. Now, from what we've already seen from this, theme during preseason, from this front seven from the Broncos, I probably take the best example from the Colts game, where we at least got a semblance of what their of a strong run team could look like, and the Broncos put it to them. So I think we've seen enough to assume that we're not going to give up 4 or 5 yards a carry during this particular game. But of course, we know that it may not even just be. I think if we kind of need to look more about Charbonnet from the Seahawks, specifically because he's a little more versatile than Kenneth Walker. So somebody who can not only get in, run the ball, but also may come out of the backfield. So Cody Barton may specifically play a big role in covering Charbonnet out of the backfield, or specifically, kind of Cody mentioned already, Noah Fant potentially in the flats as well. So I think I've seen enough to feel that we are going to progress in the run game, and I'll even make the argument that we might have actually been better at it last year than the stats will fully tell you on the year. If you take out the Dolphins game, the Broncos run defense was a lot better than expected. But if you get one game where you gave up 360, I'm gonna say 360 yards on the ground, that's going to skew your numbers for the whole entire year.
Yeah. I've looked a couple times to see if anybody had done stats on the Broncos season without that game included, just to see where they fell among others. And I never found it or really had the time to do it myself. But you're right. I mean, that stuck with us all year long. And I think even played heavily into the power rankings going, and power rankings are crap. They are what they are. But, I think from what we've seen over this offseason and preseason, there's been a little bit more respect. We're kind of climbing up there. From what I've seen, the Seahawks and Broncos are actually pretty close to each other in a lot of people's rankings. So, I think this could be a very good week one matchup for both teams because, you're looking to kind of get in the groove, test the waters, see what works, see what doesn't. And it's not like, the worst team in the league going up against the Chiefs or something like that. Okay, this is, we can handle
college
this.
Football tune-up game.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah. Not
exactly.
college football week one for sure.
And a little bit of an old rivalry in there. Like the NFL did a
AFC
really
West.
good job with their week one matchups.
Yeah.
I wrote about the uniform matchup earlier today, guys. The Broncos, they missed an opportunity to bust out those throwbacks against the Seattle throwbacks.
Because our throwbacks are...
They're sick.
They
Oh
are.
my gosh.
100%.
Some of the
good.
best uniforms in the entire league, without a question. Yeah, absolutely.
I'll give you that.
The old school blue. Oh,
Yeah.
gosh.
Yep.
Much better than
gonna
those
look good.
highlighter jerseys.
Hey now.
I mean, listen, the lime green on lime green. That's a look.
Those uniforms were there to prove that we had people on the field because we didn't play well in them, but it was proof that there's players out there.
There are players. Look, you can see them clear as day. Yeah, they stand out. Oh, jeez.
Well, Cody, let me ask you then. What do you think about specifically the interior of your offensive line in Seattle? Because we talked about the tackles, but I'm not as well versed on your guards and center there.
I'm not as well versed on the guards and centers either because I feel like we've always had just an absolute revolving door when it comes to our offensive line. We finally got bookends, which was great, but they also had a lot of injuries last year.
Yeah.
Everybody's back healthy-ish.
Knock on wood.
So, it's going to depend because, you were talking about Kenneth Walker and, Charbonnet's got a little bit better skill set. Well, Kenneth Walker, I want to say, was the top 5 running back and making the first person miss. The problem was that he was making a miss when he was getting handed the ball and, just wasn't able to, get the yards per carry that you would like. But, I mean, Kenneth Walker is elusive. His hands aren't as good as Charbonnet, but he can still catch the ball out of the backfield. So it's going to be what kind of push we can get. I believe we also changed our offensive line coach as well. So there was a whole bunch of coaching changes. So, we've always had incumbent guys forever, and it's all new voices. So, maybe they know the right whispering words to teach an offensive lineman to get the second push. We'll see. And I see there is a big excitement around having a new voice in town.
Yeah.
Seattle, Pete Carroll's forever going to be loved in Seattle for what he brought to, our city and changed the culture. But, it got stale. We'll go with it got stale.
Yeah. We had our Mike Shanahan moment. We remember.
Yeah. And I didn't think I was ready for him to leave, but I felt like we got a young coach, and hopefully it goes along the lines of McVay and what's the dude in Miami?
McDaniel.
Yeah.
Just it brings excitement and youth, and increases the production. But we'll see. But as a longtime Seahawks fan, I'm excited about our offensive line, which doesn't happen very often. So
Cody, I'm kind of curious. Your guys' you got the offensive coordinator who was from the University of Washington, right?
Yes.
So is that the first NFL offensive coordinating job for him?
Correct.
So I mean, just as I watched pretty good amount of college football on the side there. My fiance probably doesn't like that as much, but that offense was very shotgun driven, toss the ball downfield kind of offense. So I'm actually kind of curious how that translation for that offensive coordinator is going to be for the NFL game.
Yeah, I'm interested. He turned down being able to go, with our guy over to Alabama, you know, and like, I mean, that was impressive because originally he was supposed to go with them, and then we were losing both of our coaches being a UW fan, and for him to take the the head offensive coordinator job for the Seahawks, it's exciting. I mean, they could sling the ball around in Washington. That was one thing we did extremely well, and we have the tools to do it. But it's so hard to get super excited about our passing game because it's just never been a part of our culture, and that's I think something I'm excited to see is if we had the cool let Russ cook movement, and that equaled a ton of sacks. That's what it, yes, he threw the
we know that
prettiest
Saw
downfield
that.
ball ever. When it worked, it was great. But I mean, it's just like playing
When it
Madden.
worked.
Yeah, cool. You got 500 yards, but there was 40 incompletions in there too.
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
And most of it came during garbage time. Yeah, exactly.
We're a running team off the play action, and that's what Gino does best is the play action, and that's what's been our calling card for years is just tearing apart people by having a solid run game, and then as soon as you guys come up, then we take the top off. And but I don't like the idea of having Gino in the shotgun for a lot.
That's the thing, right? Gino throws an incredible deep ball.
Yeah.
Like I would hazard to say that Russell Wilson's one of the better deep ball throwers in the history of the league, but right now at their stages of career, Geno Smith has the better deep ball, and it's not even close, right?
Yeah. Geno's I mean, like when we did the trade and I came on and talked to you guys about it, I was like, Gino, all right, well, let's see. I remember Gino for having a broken jaw more than I did anything, and he's continued to impress me every year.
Yeah.
And we get in arguments amongst the family because everybody, my family wants him to be more like Russ, of like in your face or rah guy, and I'm like, I don't know. I think Gino, we got DK Metcalf to be the rah guy and get all the penalties.
There it is.
Gino just goes in there and goes to work. So we'll see. I mean, I'm excited to I mean everything's changing and everything's evolving, and the college guys are starting to take over the NFL more and more. And hopefully there will be some new wrinkles and new things because I mean when we had Steve Walton was his name, I want to say, our offense was just stale. It just short pass, dunk. All right, one deep ball, or all right, let's throw the deep ball on second down when it's 2nd and 10. And it was like, can we get some yards? Can we get something rolling? We had so many 3 and outs, and it was just there was just nothing moving forward. And so, and then we weren't even able to utilize, DK to his fullest potential because they knew we were going to throw it deep. It was going to be a go route, and he was going to try and jump up and get it. All right, yeah, great. That's effective when DK can run away from people. Like, he was nastier on slants, and he's, I mean, yes, he can go up and get a ball anytime, but like, I'd rather him on a slant just taking off away from people. Just ask Buda Baker how fast he is. I mean, the man's quick. The dude's a unit.
Well, I'm glad he brought that up, and Kev, I hope I don't steal your thunder.
Go for
this
it.
one,
go
but
for it.
I think that kind of leads me into what I think the best matchup of the game is going to be, and one to watch is going to be DK Metcalf versus PS2 because we've already seen the matchup, and of course they are absolutely going to get in each other's faces, and I definitely enjoy that. Now, I know I was a couple of weeks ago, I was like, man, what a physical specimen PS2 is, but man, what a physical specimen DK Metcalf is. So you're going to get two monster human beings. I mean, DK Metcalf is a monster for a tight end, and he's a wide receiver. PS2's a monster for just, I mean, how many guys you get 6'2", 210 that are out there on an island by themselves. So I think that's really what's going to set this game apart. Now, Njigba, of course, being the on his second year out of Ohio State, it's going to be interesting to see what they're going to do with them too. I know Tyler Lockett's a little longer in the tooth than in previous years. He can still be super efficient, but I know a lot of the Seahawks fans were excited about to see what can Njigba do in his second year.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll see what where he's going to fit into the fold. Tyler Lockett, I feel like, I mean, everything from fantasy to even our own fan base is like, oh, Tyler Lockett's washed up, and it's like, I don't know, man. It always feels like he's
Yeah.
open. He continues to do his thing. It's just he's a smaller stature wide receiver. And I go immediately when I think small stature wide receivers that were always open, I go for you guys, Wes Welker. Like, I mean, he works. He doesn't blow you off with his, speed or anything like that, but the man's always open. And he's got sure hands. It's just whether or not he gets the ball or not in the game plan. And he doesn't complain. So I feel like that's another thing is he's never going to be the dude that complains about how many touches he gets. It's just about the W. But then that leads to negative connotations about Tyler Lockett. And I just don't necessarily see it because it's never been he's got a ton of injuries or he can't stay on the field. It's just whether or not it's just how we're going to use Njigba. And tap into his talents because he gives us, just a whole nother set of assets that, we just haven't had for a long time. And, doing the rookie growth is great, but now it's year 2 and let's keep giving him more, giving him more of a target share.
Well, and I'm glad you brought Njigba up because that's another matchup I'm really looking forward to see is Jaquan McMillan against Jackson Smith and Njigba. You've got 2 players who had plenty of flashes in their rookie years, right? And gave you plenty of reasons if you're a fan to think this guy could be a long-term answer at his position for this team if he continues to grow like he's grown this season. So I am really excited to see how that battle with these 2 young players works out on the field this week.
No, there's exciting matchups all the way across the board, and I feel like we're both a little bit more even than people give you guys credit for. And I just think it's going to be, which set of guys wants it more. Because everybody
exactly
matches
right.
up across the board. And then even with your guys' wideouts, I'm excited to see Cortland go off. He's somebody that I've always been a fan of, that it was just like, man, if I could just had an Eskimo medicine man to keep that dude on the field. He's a monster. He's a monster when he's in there. Yeah.
Well, there one more, and David, what you have too. I was going to bring up one more defense thing before we switch over, kind of, Seahawks defense, Broncos offense, because I think obviously we want to talk about Bo Nix, right? That's what everyone wants to talk about. But this is really good stuff. So, we've kind of gone through a lot of the defense there. And what we're looking at for PS2 and that matchup is going to be fantastic. But what do you expect from Geno Smith in this first game with a new head coach? How often is he going to be testing that PS2 side versus just saying, hey, we got this Riley Moss guy on the other side. Let's really focus in on him, test him, see if we can rattle him, versus is it really worth trying to pick on PS2 too many times during that game, unless something obviously is just definitely there. But, what do you guys think, David? I mean, we can start with you, man.
Yeah, I think that could be a real matchup advantage for the Seahawks potentially. And I don't know, I don't know. Right. Moss has been good enough to win the number 2 job. The uncomfortable truth for me is it felt like he really won that number 2 job when Damari Mathis got hurt in that preseason game. So like that gives me a little bit of pause. I wonder if it's a game where we do see PS2 travel with DK Metcalf a lot to at least have the matchup of, all right, we've got Moss, who's kind of a little bit of a question mark, but we've also got him against Tyler Lockett, who is, has proven himself as an NFL wide receiver time and again, but is now entering another season, and we've got a new offensive coordinator. Maybe we take the gamble on that matchup as opposed to trying to hook Moss one-on-one with Metcalf because they're matched up on the same side, right?
Right. Spotty?
It's hard on me to kind of think about it, right? Because when you get a defensive coordinator, so a defensive-minded head coach, the vast majority of the time, the way that they want things established is run the football, establish the run game, give my defense a lot of time to breathe, and then we're allowed to play the game that we want to play. But he brought in someone who, running wasn't Washington's thing. I know that their running back, he was a hoss for them last year, but they had 2 guys over 1,200 yards in passing. Like they wanted to throw the rock around the field. So there's almost 2 parts that are going against each other here, and I you don't really know who's going to win out on it. I could easily
Yeah.
see that they just kind of side with the offense coordinator and kind of do your thing to kind of see how things are going to go on that. So David, you could absolutely be right. We could really be, it doesn't really matter. Would Riley Moss, even if he was even a little better, he's still going to get picked on because he's on the other side of, one of the shutdown corners in the league. So I'm not sure, even if Levi Wallace or Damari Mathis would have been hurt or been healthy, would there have been really much improvement on that number 2 spot for the Broncos. And I do believe that's something that we're going to have to find a way to kind of cover up, if you will, something that, do other things around the blitzing packages to maybe give that person a little more or a shorter period of time to have to be in one-on-one coverage. So, I mean, it's hard to see what the Seahawks' strategy is going to be in this particular game. And I'm kind of hoping that it's more of a run-first game so that the Broncos can maybe take advantage of the D-line that we've put together.
Yeah, I'll say this before Cody jumps in. I think Jaquan McMillan blitzes at least 4 times in this game. I think we're going to see. We've heard it all preseason how much of a blitzer he's been. He's been good at it. I think they're going to bring the heat from that cornerback blitz several times.
Yeah. Well, then, so Cody, for you, man, let's just say you're hired by the Seahawks. You are the offensive coordinator. You are calling the plays. Man, what are you telling Geno Smith? What's your plan going into the game, man?
Obviously, you want to attack the other side. But one thing that Seattle has had a pretty bad habit of, where I find that DK Metcalf has struggled, is when he goes against the top dude that shadows him, that gets in your grill, he gets emotional. And then we force it. And we force it to him. And like I said, every time I've seen DK have just a monster game, it's where you're spreading it out, and then he's able to take advantage because you just can't lock in on him. And so that's what I'm hoping from our offensive coordinators. We do a lot more scheme where we're attacking across the field and not just, all right, we need to get bailed out. But hey, he already has one personal foul for getting in the cornerback's face. He's already emotional, and his head's not in it. Obviously, I'd rather attack Moss all day long over PS2. I mean, PS2 is, just that, the next Jalen Ramsey. I mean, PS2 is just wonderful. But, it's one of those, we got to wait and see, because it's just, those are old habits from, older, former, coordinators. And I'm hoping it changes. Because I just feel like, especially with Seattle, we just have too many weapons. There's just too much. We have too much talent to go elsewhere that we don't have to force them. It's not like we've got two. Our wide receiver 2 and 3 are just bums. Our undrafted free agents that we're just hoping on to. Right. Like, there's no reason we have to force the DK, unless I would rather force to them when we're in the red zone. I got no problem with that. Different. But it's when we're doing it, down the field, just doing go routes and curls and just having to try and jump, it makes no sense. And especially, why would I want to go at PS2? Having a great cornerback like we did with Richard Sherman, we loved it when they tried to force it over on that side. Please, all day, we'll take that all day. You had one completion. Good job. I'm really glad you guys went that route.
Right. Well, I mean, we saw a little bit in preseason too. Like, PS2's in good form. Like when they threw at them, they made them pay. Granted, preseason, but the point of the matter is still there. Like, don't mess with PS2. You're going to regret it. Maybe not that. Maybe you'll get away with it a couple times, but eventually you're going to pay for it. And that guy is big. He's fast. He's talented. He'll make you pay. So it's going to be interesting to see what Geno Smith does. Like you're saying, like, what does that new culture look like? What is the new look of the Seahawks going to play out to be? We've heard the same phrase in Broncos country the last 8 years. What's the identity of the offense, right? And that's kind of what you guys are looking to get answered is, what is this going to look like? What can we expect from the rest of the season? And, we've talked about it here, looking at the snap count at the end of game 1. What is that going to look like? And maybe a little different for us than you guys, but, just what does that play call look like? How do they utilize these players? And it's going to be interesting from that point for sure. David, did you have something earlier, man?
No, I was about to transition over to Broncos offense versus the Seahawks defense.
Cool.
So this was perfect timing. Yeah.
Perfect. Before we do that, everyone, make sure you hit subscribe on our YT page and hit that little notification bell as well, so you know when we're going live or post different content, putting up videos just about every single day. We're also bringing back our full slate of other content, our pregame podcast, our pregame live show about 1 hour before kickoff, our live halftime hash show, as well as our postgame podcast on Monday nights as well. And then full hour-long show, Bourbon Broncos No BS, every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Mountain Time. So we'll be here with you guys for yet another, what should be hopefully a fun season. We're not playing Miami in September this year, so far so good.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Lord. Yeah.
That was still a legendary game. That was just
Well, maybe if you're a fantasy owner.
Yeah.
of Dolphins players specifically.
Yeah.
that may
You
be
know
my
what?
second favorite Broncos game ever, besides the Super Bowl. That might be my second
Oh,
favorite game ever.
boo.
Yeah, that
Listen,
I
that's
will
fair enough.
always forever be grateful to McDaniels though, because he could have gotten that record and basically solidified
yeah.
himself into the Pro Football
Could have
Hall
done
of
it.
Fame, and he said no. He said points been made.
Well, look,
That's 'cause
I wonder if his
Because he was hitting the
past
weekend.
as a Broncos ball boy had really any
I think-
man, he just had to take pity on the old team,
Yeah,
like,
I think if it had been any other team, we'd been like, no, we're going for it.
yeah, we're going for it. Forget it. Ugh.
Oh my
All right,
gosh.
boy.
But yeah, let's do it. And David, if you're already ready for it, man, let's dive into it. So
I am
Broncos
ready.
offense, guys. What do you
I
got?
want to
for
get
me,
into
man?
I think what is the best matchup for the Broncos offense against this Seahawks defense so far this year. And we don't know what the Seahawks defense is going to be. We know what Mike McDonald wants to come in and do. He wants to run a ton of stunts and simulated pressures up front. He wants to get your offensive line so confused that they don't know who they're blocking when they're blocking. And that will give whoever he sends to rush, even if it's just 4 guys, the time to get there, right? And that's what Mike McDonald wants to do. And we'll talk about whether he has the ability to do that in his first season with a new team or not a little bit later. But I think the best matchup for this Broncos team right now is going to be against that inside linebacking core of Seattle. It sounds like that position has kind of been unsettled. It sounds like it has not been a strength of your defense for a while, and there's no reason to believe, just based on the personnel that you brought in this season, Cody, that there's reason to suspect that will change dramatically this week. And so, with Bo Nix's ability to find a running back in space already, and Sean Payton's total willingness to run an offense through that kind of passing game, I think that's probably a decent matchup for the Broncos going into week 1.
Spotty?
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing about the defensive line for them that, screams out to me. Now, I'm also not super confident in our offensive line, at least when it comes to, not maybe necessarily when it comes to depth, but I do believe that running the football is going to be a strength of us this year. We know that's what Quinn, it's what he wants to do. We know we got Powers. We of course not real sure what we have at center, so we're not positive how it's going to go from there. But we're going to definitely be running the ball between the tackles, and I'm okay with a little dink and dunk. We've got 4 running backs on our team right now that at any point, it doesn't matter who's in the game. It's not like you can sit back on your the balls of their feet and not have to worry about covering them, though. Every single one of those running backs will run into the flat or run up the middle to catch a ball and take it some distance. So that's nice to see. I think for us that a tough matchup is going to definitely be that secondary, though. The one spot that the youth movement for the Broncos is going to have the biggest effect is, of course, going to be at wide receiver. We're going to be needing our guys to really step up, because Tyreek Woolen and Witherspoon, I actually feel like they're not talked about enough, considering their tandem for defensive backs, and then on top of everything else, they're both super young guys. Witherspoon was a rookie last year, and then Tyreek Woolen maybe a third-year player this year. Yikes, man. You got those 2 young guys, and Witherspoon has got the size to cover Cortland Sutton, who is the person that we want to get the ball to. So we're Reynolds and Vele or even Mims, we're going to need them to make us to step up. We're going to need. There's no slow getting used to this offense. One of them needs to be in the forefront and attacking the spaces that they need to attack, like right now. Because if that doesn't happen, then we're going to suffer a lot.
Yeah.
Joey said it right here. Yeah, hoping to see some chunk plays from Mims. Look, I think, high expectations for Mims. He's, only what, third year?
Yeah, second year.
Second year.
Second year. So, but he's still like, compared to these other guys who are rookies, but he was drafted, with just purpose in mind, and we're expecting him to take a step this year, right? Didn't really see it in preseason. Again, preseason is preseason, but you're right. You're looking at these young guys to say, who's going to take the opportunity here, right? Cortland Sutton's probably going to be the main guy covered this whole time. We're going to try to get it to him. I don't doubt that he can't make a incredible catch or two like we saw last year. But what are the other guys? Reynolds, we talk about his issue dropping balls. Is that going to come into play this week? Do one of these other guys, do Devon Vele, does he step up, and kind of showcase what he has? So I think there's a lot of excitement here for these young players because they know that this is kind of their chance too, to separate them from the pack and say, hey, regular season, this stuff counts, and I can step up and make a statement play when needed, right? And from there, how does that, impact going to game 2 and stuff like that? So you're right. I think you're going to see the ball be spread around a lot. I don't know if you're going to see Bo Nix really take many deep shots, especially early in the game. Like, I think you're going to want to see him just get in a rhythm or get that run game going and go from there. But that'll be interesting for us to talk about in a little bit too. But Cody, what are your thoughts, man?
Let's see here. So definitely the secondary wise, like you guys talked about, Witherspoon and Woolen are a problem. They're fantastic at what we have each one of them do. We definitely lean on them for their strengths, and we don't really expose them to their weaknesses. We're going through a changing of the guard on the safety position. Finally we given up on the Jamal Adams experience.
Yeah.
Thank goodness that's over. It was sad to see Quandre go, but Jordan Love, we signed him to a new contract. He was a Pro Bowler, someone that's kind of unheralded that people don't really talk about as a premier safety, but he made a Pro Bowl, so there's respect there. On the middle of the field, yeah, it's uncertain. It hurts me when you say that it's always been uncertain. We had Bobby Wagner.
Right.
Wagner.
It feels like I feels like forever
leader.
Since he's been there, and that's weird to me. Like he was there forever.
Year.
Right, he was there last year. I kind of forget last year. I forget last year.
Right.
Well, yeah, right. So it's sad to see him in a Commander's uniform. I mean, that hurts my soul.
Rams too, I can
but
imagine.
Yeah, no, there's definitely some uncertainty at the linebacker position. However, there is some excitement with the rookie that we got from Texas as a run stuffing guy, who's probably our most exciting prospect we've had on the line since having the big guys, Red Bryant and Brandon Mebane up the middle to short up. We finally have one big body that can stuff it, and hopefully all of his personal stuff aside from what I hear was interesting this preseason. But
was that Sweat?
What's that?
It was that Sweat.
Yeah, Sweat.
That's a
big
boy.
Kid from Texas. Yeah,
that's a big boy.
Big boy.
Like five.
And he did a lot of great things in Texas.
Yeah, 5 second 40-yard dash for someone who's like 320 pounds.
Yeah, he's got some Jones to him from Kansas City and Jalen Carter even. I mean, he's a big athletic guy that can move bodies and stuff the run, so that's exciting, but also once again, he's a rookie. So, there's going to be plays where he's going to blow up the offensive line and do some incredible stuff. And then there's going to be ones where he is fooled and, he's going to want to go sit down for a couple plays, getting up to speed with the NFL. But definitely our linebacking core scares me a little bit because it's just, once again, it's another changing of the guard. We don't have, the KJ Wrights, the Bobby Wagners anymore. They're all gone. And then our other rookie, what was that? Not rookie. I mean, he was now a couple years, but Brooks, he's gone. He was supposed to be the next great linebacker we were going to have.
Yeah.
That's gone. So we'll see. That the middle of the field scares me.
For sure.
Yeah, and this is, you mentioned it, guys. I think you were talking about Byron Murphy, guys, the first round pick for Seattle, up the DT from up front. Yeah, I think that's
Murphy.
There we go.
Yeah.
Connected to the girl's Wi-Fi. There we go.
There it is. No, I think Murphy, that's going to be a real interesting matchup going against Wattenberg, who is, a second-year center, maybe stepping in, but first-year starting for sure. But that, you like the matchup of a rookie against these Broncos guards.
Yeah.
You've got a veteran in Powers. You've got Quinn Miners, who's one of the best young guards in the game. But if you ever, if you line him up directly against the center and just let him pin his ears back on like a 3rd and 10, like, I don't know what could happen there. That could be a pretty interesting advantage for the Seahawks to have. So, that's going to be a fun one to watch all game long. Guys, what do you think? And I want to kind of throw this question out to everybody. Do you think that in the receiving game for the Broncos, do you think that if Bo Nix is, one drive away from winning this game at the end of the fourth quarter, right? But he needs a chunk play. Do you think there are any decisive matchups in this Broncos receiving tight ends, wide receivers, running backs that can win a matchup against the Seahawks? Or do you think that's a big advantage for Seattle on that end?
Man,
I think I have the answer for this, but of course, and it's because it's the one person who burned Seattle the last time, and that's Greg Dulcich. So
there you go.
A healthy, actually, matter of fact, that was his. We're like, wow, look what we got. Greg Dulcich goes for, it was probably 67 yards. I don't remember how that play was. I think he's a very bad mismatch for them. Okay, it's not that he's a huge tight end by any means, but he is a tight end that can move. And if you're putting a linebacker or potentially a safety on him, I think that's somebody that we can kind of take advantage of. Now, that might be the only spot on it that we have. Maybe I guess it's because we just don't really know what we have from our younger wide receivers just yet to know if it's going to be anybody on that side. Because I'm going to tell you, it's not Josh Reynolds. Okay,
No,
I know it's not.
That's the one guy I would say nope.
So I think the one that might end up surprising us if we get down there to the spot that we need to, I think Greg Dulcich is definitely a matchup nightmare in the right position.
Man, to see another play like that come out of him, in this game would be huge, especially now he's coming back healthy. Like, that would be a good thing to see a connection really developing between him and Bo Nix there. So, I mean, Cody, what do you think about that, man?
I agree with that 100%. I mean, that would be, I would say be the easiest matchup to exploit. Going down the seam, and then rookie quarterback, who's their favorite target? Running backs and tight ends.
Yeah, very true.
And we definitely got ate up a lot last year by tight ends. Because that push formula.
Sure enough.
2 cubes, you got it. Yeah. A nice Game of Thrones, House of Lannister, Lagavulin.
Oh, there you go.
Sitting in my girlfriend's house. I haven't touched it in 3 years. So
there you go. Enjoy.
Let me ask you this, Cody, specifically, because I'm interested in, like we were talking about, what Mike Macdonald is really known for and what he brings over from the Ravens the most is it's not like a complicated scheme that he does once the play is running, but it's that before the snap and then in the first 2 seconds of the snap. It's those simulated pressures. You're bringing this guy. It looks, you're trying to convince this young quarterback, right, that you're bringing this 5th or 6th guy on a pressure, and then he bails out in coverage, and then 2 other guys bail out in coverage, and the defensive tackle is out in coverage, but the cornerback and the safety are both blitzing at you at the same time. That's kind of what the Mike Macdonald magic sauce is known for. So I'm just I want to gauge your opinion as much as I can on whether the Seahawks have players who can execute that complicated level of defense, in week 1. Right. Yeah.
Maybe.
After one off season.
I don't even think we brought in too many of Baltimore's guys either to help
No.
make that work.
Right.
Also, I'm curious to see on how we're going to be able to adjust that, because normally whenever you get a new head coach, new defense, implement his system. Oh, are you with me now? Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
They usually bring over 2 or 3 guys to help implement the system, teach everybody, hey, this is how we go about business. And they didn't really do that
Yeah.
because Baltimore wasn't going to let any of their guys go.
They all got promoted, right? In Baltimore,
Yeah,
they just all got the next job. So
yeah, exactly.
yeah.
So we shall see. And, I don't know. I'm not convinced that we're going to be able to implement it. And that's where we're hopefully excited, is that we can, implement his vision and we become a problem, and then our defense gains the respect that, we've lost over the years. Not going to the Legion of Boom where we're going to destroy everybody with corners, but now maybe we can actually have a menacing defensive line.
Yeah.
That goes after the quarterback, because I mean that's been our biggest struggle for years, is that we just haven't had a pass rush.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh wow.
And what? And unfortunately, Uchenna Nwosu is out for this game, right?
Yeah, and Nwosu is probably our best pass rusher. We traded away Taylor, who wasn't destroying people, but he was known as a pass rusher. He's now gone.
Right.
So yeah, there's just too many unknowns. And we're just hoping that, we get this new batch of guys that under new leadership, may become, menaces. But until we
and I'll say this, I think your defense has a really good potential to look very different at the end of this season than at the start of this season.
Absolutely. And I mean, there's been ESPN's talked about it. I just think that if we continue to grow into our system, we're going to be something that nobody's ever seen. Well, nobody's ever seen out of Seattle.
Right.
That's never been our identity. So that's where I think we'll surprise people a lot more. And, hopefully that'll happen, and, we'll be competitive in the NFC West and, into the playoffs and, see what happens.
Yeah.
I just don't want to receive the ball and say we're going to score, because that did not work out for us that last time we made that comment. We want the ball and we're going to score.
Good old Hasselback.
Good old Hasselback. So.
Okay. Yeah, Tracy. So, we condone drinking and driving here at Bourbon Broncos, no BS. So, Cody, you need to give that drink up. Tracy is ready for it.
You mean you don't condone? I think I think you just sent a very mixed message to the fans.
I did. I don't.
Yeah.
I condemn. I condemn.
Condemn, not condone. There's two different words there. And they mean the exact opposite.
I was just seeing if you guys were still listening to me. That's really what it was. A test. We passed.
We catch these things.
It was a week 1 test. You guys, I'm
like
proud
that.
of you all.
Okay.
I'm so proud of you guys.
I've been ready for week 1 since about May, so let's go.
Well, let's wrap up the offense conversation here with this. So Tracy asked, good point here. This year, Peyton gets to do it his way. His team, his staff, his quarterback. See what he brings. More hope in the coach this year than she's had for few seasons. For me, many seasons. But what is Sean Payton's ultimate plan going to be here? I mean, I think we all kind of have an idea, but David, you're Sean Payton, man. What is your goal? What are you looking to go out and do? Obviously, other than score points and win.
Well, look, I hesitate to psychoanalyze Sean Payton because I've never been in a room with him or within 10 miles of him, probably, except by accident. But I will say this. I think he's more energized as a coach than he's been in years. I think he is taking this challenge specifically of having a rookie quarterback to work with for the first time as a head coach in his entire career as a chance to solidify his own legacy. And I think he's going to throw everything that he can to the wall as far as this is what my guy has already shown on tape. This is what he can do. These are the things of that category that fit into an NFL offense. And this is what I can do as a coach to make that as fucking difficult for opposing defenses to deal with as possible. So this coaching matchup in specific against the Seahawks, I think is an advantage for the Broncos just because you've got a guy with this much experience going with this much enthusiasm at a problem, which I really like. I don't know what that translates to over an entire season, but at least going into week one for me, that's what I think Sean Payton's goal is, to go out there and kind of show. And look, Sean Payton is a petty man. I think everybody here in this room can acknowledge that. Sean Payton is going to want to go and show everybody in the national media who doubted the pick of Bo Nix at 12 that this is my guy. I can win with him right away. Fuck you. And whether that blows up in his face like it did last year when he was talking about Nathaniel Hackett or not, we'll see. But I think that's what he's going to want to do in week one.
We'll get a matchup later on.
I sure hope so.
Yeah. Yeah.
We know that out of all the people in this room, I'm the one skeptic of Sean Payton. We have seen some things. But the man needs to still grow. He needs to evolve this game. He petty or not, it's not like he didn't mean to put out a terrible offense last year. It's like that's not a petty thing that he would necessarily do. So if he can't show that he's willing to move himself at least partially into this era, we're still going to run into issues, right? Like, I get it. We gave him the quarterback to run his offense. Okay, well, if that offense is still not one that, can throw the ball down the field or can't even, scheme anybody open, then what's the point? So I really hope that we're giving Sean everything that he possibly can, and he at least is taking some advice from other people to add different things, because we're in a different generation of the NFL than the one that he left us with when he went to go into the analyst booth. Okay, so this is his time to show that he actually is this offensive genius that everybody has said he's been in a long time.
Well, a lot of pre-snap motion this year. Maybe that's the change,
But that wasn't even a thing for the Saints. Like, we know that wasn't even something the Saints did. But you need to do pre-snap motion. I mean, friggin', we were talking McDaniels, right?
Yeah.
The Dolphins, what, pre-snap motion on every play that they run out there. So we got to do something.
But it's all in the name of helping your young quarterback, right? And that's, I think, that's why the Dolphins do it so much. It's so you can see, get the defense to show as much as possible. And that's why I think we're seeing more of it. For any other reason, that's why we're seeing more of it from Sean Payton this year.
Well, whatever the case is, I mean, you're right. I mean, we need to see more than just that, obviously. But what does that look like? What does that transpire to? And, you got to look at, how often does Bo Nix get the ball in the right place and then the ball just not caught or it's dropped or, things like that, right? So, stats are one thing, but, we're really going to have to look and see all these other things from Bo Nix. How does he handle himself? One of the big things that I'm still waiting to see, and it'll happen eventually, how does he handle adversity? And I don't just mean like, okay, that was a bad drive, but they lose 2 or 3 games in a row. How does he come out and handle himself as the leader of the team, as the quarterback of the Broncos, right? Because I don't care how good of how talented you are, how well you can run. If you get down on yourself and you kind of lose focus and all that stuff, you're kind of a bust at that point. Like, that's not really something you can learn, I don't think. I mean, maybe, but man, you're talking about a Broncos team that is so desperate for a quarterback that we're not going to give him 5 years to figure it out, and so that's one of the things, we talk the poise and the maturity he supposedly brings to the table. Man, I hope they're right, because I think I'm banking on that to really pan out, and that's what I think is going to help push him over the edge or not. So Cody, over to you, man. We'll do the same thing for you. Mike McDonald, what do you think his game plan is going into this game? And then we'll do some closing thoughts for the night, man.
Win.
Yeah.
I couldn't even try and guess, because, like, unfortunately I haven't seen too many interviews with him. Not having cable, I usually just turn it on whatever day we're playing and get to see it. There's excitement there. I giggled when you talked about Sean Payton being petty because I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
He reminds me a little bit of almost kind of like Belichick, right? As we talk about Sean Payton and his genius for his time in New Orleans. Well, his genius was signing Drew Brees.
Yeah.
That's, and now what is this coach going to do without that elite level quarterback? Because he hasn't done anything without him, and where's the genius at? And then you guys are talking about the pre-snap movements, right? Like that to me now is basically the NFL's version of the shift for baseball, like
Right.
if it's allowed, do it. And, give your guy the most opportunities to see what's in front of him. The game's hard enough. You're not going to find too many Peyton Manning people that can be the coach on the field that can just look and know everything they're going to do. And I used to find that so funny watching, so many quarterbacks struggle, and you're like, well, yeah, they're not this guy with this level of football acumen. They're talented people at throwing a football, so you got to help them out any which way you can. And for your guys' quarterback, when it comes to a confidence level, he played for Oregon. It's a great program, but they also weren't the undefeated teams either. So he had adversity playing at Oregon, and yeah, they were pretty much the top, top level. I mean, one of the top teams in, the former Pac-12,
Granted.
but they were not the, the Oregon Ducks with Mario, of old, where they were the number one team in the Pac-12. That's been kind of right now where, Washington has been, now that's over now that we got a new coach, and we'll see what happens there. That's a whole nother conversation. So, there's excitement there, but yeah, we're going to see what Sean Payton's really, really about. Cause now, you got the quarterback. Nope, we didn't like him. Oh, he didn't do it my way. All right, done. Now he says this is his quarterback. We'll see.
Yep.
And that's, that's where
Exactly.
jobs are win and lost, right? When it comes to GMs
Well,
and head coaches, is you pick your guy, you say that's
Yeah.
your guy, and we'll see.
I would say more than just games and jobs. I think it's legacy.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
and that's it. You've put yourself into such an interesting corner right now if you're Sean Payton, because really your legacy right now is I am one of the greatest offensive coaches in the NFL, or I'm Bill Belichick and I couldn't get it done.
I was going to say Bill Belichick.
I couldn't get it done without the superstar quarterback, and I had a lot of chances and I didn't do it. And you've tied that to a guy who was the sixth quarterback picked in the 2024 draft. And you've gone so far to make sure that everybody thinks that this was your guy the whole time. You've gone out, interview after interview, and he had only football stuff in his backpack, right? And he was one of the top 2 quarterbacks that we had graded in this entire draft, right? Okay, but if it doesn't work and people look back on it now, that's all on you. You screwed up the entire evaluation from start to finish. If that's all the truth now, and that's what you want everybody to believe now, so that's what they're going to think in the future.
The one comment I saw flash up there about if Gino can handle the scheme, what I would say is that Gino can throw the football.
Yeah,
that's never been a doubt of mine with him, is that he can sling a football around, and people forget how talented he was coming out of college, all the adversities come through. But it's, the scheme that is coming in isn't like they're expecting him to run bootlegs and be Lamar Jackson and scamper all over the field. Like, the man is there to throw the football.
Right.
So, there's hope there. And there should be a little bit of silent confidence that he can move the football around, because the problem was that we were always forcing it into tight windows, and guess what? There's 3 or 4 guys that can just throw the ball even if they're covered, and they're going to catch it. And like, okay, Gino's not that guy, but he is a absolutely serviceable quarterback. He's, doesn't make too many mistakes, and, so it'll be interesting to see, if he can implement the scheme. But like, I don't think there's anything out of our offensive coordinator's scheme that Gino can't do.
Yeah.
Because he's not asking him to do anything. We have a veteran quarterback. We know what we have. It's not, there's no, exactly what Geno Smith is.
Right. Right.
So,
yeah.
Yep. Well, let's do some closing comments. So we'll go Spotty, Cody, David. But for me, guys, look, It's going to be interesting to see again how Bo Nix goes out there, handles himself. I would not be surprised if you see him just a little nervous. I think that's normal. Like even with the preseason games, you're going out there and you're playing your first real game where everything matters out on Seahawks field, and that is a tough place to play at. So I say don't get discouraged if you see a bad play or a mistake or a bad read. Right, this is week one, but we need to see how he develops over time. So this will be our first real idea of where he's at. Now, if he goes in there and he looks good and he looks poised and confident and just makes good decisions the whole game, fantastic, right? I think that's the most you could hope for from the kid. But I think just as long as we're able to do things like move the ball, we show that there's consistency, there's improvement from last year. The defense didn't really lose a step too much, right? Dust the cobwebs off, but go out there and play a good game. I think from the Broncos, you could see a very good performance there. But you're right, everything that Cody is saying, Seahawks are just as talented team as the Broncos are. I think we're even in skill overall. And that's going to make it very even game. I would not be surprised to see it being very close. But it could very well come down to not just who wants to win more, but who really just cuts back on the mistakes. Who's the more disciplined team, and that's, the penalties can kill you, but especially in a week one where, man, every little mistake is, yeah. He's getting better. Okay. But yes, if I hear his number called for a holding penalty on Sunday, I'll be pissed. So look, that's what we got to think about, though, right? And I think whichever team is more disciplined and comes out there with just the mentality of we want to win more is probably the team that comes out on top. But for the Broncos, again, this is week one. Let's see what they do, and see what kind of team we put together. But Spotty, man, what do you think?
Well, Broncos fans, prepare for an ugly first half. We forget what it's like to have a true rookie to be at the helm the first game. And it doesn't always like even CJ Stroud didn't come out and throw for 500 yards in the first game that he came in, right? Like you have to know that teams are going to be throwing things at you that you have never seen before. You're going to be implementing plays that you've never tried at 100% speed. So you have to prepare for the first half to be ugly. Now, as a Broncos fan, I would love for Bo to come out and just go bonkers, like, light the sky on fire. But you have to set the expectation that there's a good chance that we may see some of those negative things that we saw in the preseason. We're hoping not a lot of penalties. We're hoping not any turnovers or anything like that. But these are things that tend to happen in the first half of everyone's games. It's not even necessarily even the ones that have rookie quarterbacks. So I'm hoping to see a Bo Nix and a game plan that's going to allow him to settle down early and often, that to get the ball to the right places, scheme open the right people. That's what I'm hoping is going to happen. But we also know that there's still a lot of parts of this offense that are brand new to Bo, to brand new even to Sean Payton. So set the expectation. I would love to see the Broncos to put up at least 14 to 21 in the first half, but I also know there's a possibility that we may not have any points on the board to start the second half.
Yeah, well, and really quickly, David, before you, I can't remember where Tracy's comment was, but I lost it. But looking at Bo Nix, again, maybe a bad first half, but again, look back to what he did in preseason. He started 2 for 6, but after that, he did really, really well, right? So how quickly can he learn? How quickly can he adapt is going to be huge. So, David.
And I'm glad you guys covered the offensive side of the ball for the Broncos, because I kind of want to flip the script a little bit and talk about the defense. Because I think, guys, and I think Joey's right on here. The Seahawks have, I think, just on paper, at the very least, more talent than the Broncos overall. And yeah, no, absolutely. I don't think there's any question about it. I think the coaching advantage leans Denver this game, particularly just because you've got veteran coaches in Sean Payton and Vance Joseph on the one side of the ball going against a first-year staff trying to implement a new system with these players that they're all just kind of trying to get to know still. And I think that on the defensive side of the ball specifically, you said it, Cody. Geno Smith kind of is what he is. And that doesn't mean he's not a talented quarterback who can push the ball down the field, because he's both of those things. But Vance Joseph, after especially being, defensive coordinator of the Cardinals and then coming into this Broncos team as a veteran with all of this experience, I think can diagnose the things that Geno wants to do well. And regardless of kind of what the scheme wants for him, I think he can come into this game in week 1 with a bunch of players that he played with last season and put them in positions to succeed. I don't think that means that the Broncos have a 1-to-1 advantage on every matchup, defense versus their offense on the field. I just think that Vance Joseph is going to put these players in a position to do their best on a down-to-down basis. And that, I think, is going to be a really intriguing matchup to me against a staff that is coming in, as we've acknowledged, an offensive staff especially that's coming from the college game into the NFL in their first game. I think that's going to be a really interesting matchup for Denver.
Yeah. Cody, last words, man.
Nope, I like what David said there. Like I agree. Like I've always been a big fan of Vance Joseph. I think he's fantastic. I always feel like he kind of got a rough shake as being a head coach and stuff like that. But the man knows defense. There's no arguments there. When it comes to the rookie quarterback, I'm sorry, I don't think there's a worse place you can show up on your first week and play than
other than the Chiefs Stadium. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
It's us and the Chiefs, right? Like, and it makes up for a lot. Like that's what's crazy. Like I've been to that stadium so many times. I mean, they talk about how loud it is. I mean, I've gone to so many games where I'm with my dad and you're trying to have a beer and you're just like, oh man, what a play. And you can be yelling it at the person sitting next to you and you're not going to hear it. And with your guys' offensive line, that noise counts. And you can't even, I mean, it's talked about all the time. And so I won't beat that, down, but like, that's a problem. Yeah. And no matter what's going on, we're tough to play at home. That's been our staple. It's the 12th man is a thing. I love it. So that always makes me excited. I'm definitely more excited for a home game than I ever am an away game, just because we always have a little bit more of an advantage because of that noise level. And people are excited because it's a change of the guard all the way across the board in Seattle. So that's going to make everybody fiery, everybody excited to see what it's going to be, so they're going to be encouraging. But, it's week 1 football. So we shall see, and now I get to giggle now because now it's a complete change of the guard. We had the infamous trade. You guys were Russell Wilson's mistress that he left us for, and you got left with the bag. And, we came out on top, I feel like, in that trade,
Yeah.
But, it's all done and over with. It's a thing of the past now. Everything's pretty much off the books. And it's a new day, So like at the end of the day, like that's exciting for your guys' fan base. I'm excited to see what you guys do. I mean, you guys are a historic franchise, and I'm excited to see what the future holds. But another thing Bo Nick's got to deal with, he's an Oregon boy, and we don't like Oregon. Washington hates Oregon.
You're gonna definitely bring the energy.
The 12s are going to be out.
Week 1 already wasn't bad enough.
Don't get me wrong. He'll get a little bit warmer of a reception than Russ did.
Yeah, fair.
but not much, man, because you want to talk about who's petty, and I'm telling you right now, Washington fans are petty. Petty.
Just tune in a week from now when we start talking about the Steelers coming to town.
Oh, yeah.
I can't wait.
You're going to see some pettiness.
I can't wait. But no, it's going to be an exciting matchup, and we'll see which team comes out on top. Of course, Seahawks. Okay, yay. I'm not gonna say go Hawks or what was it? What did he say for you guys?
Let's ride.
Let's ride. Yeah. Aren't we glad all those are gone? Because I'm so happy when I watch an interview and I don't have to hear go Hawks. Like I love Russ. I really did, but golly, corny.
He probably did high knees on the airplane one too many times.
But no, excited to see the matchups. I'm always excited to go against good players. So I'm excited to see Cortland. I'm excited to see PS2. and we'll see who executes the most. And I can't wait for at least my board bet is Garrett Bowles has 2 holding calls.
We'll see. Okay, I was going to put the over under at 1.5. So
Yeah,
all right,
I'm
let's
going with
go.
2. I'll take the over.
Okay.
I'll take the over.
Okay.
All right.
But
We'll
gentlemen,
see.
it's always a pleasure to see you guys. I love being able to come on here and talk with you guys. I love watching you guys whenever I'm not out to sea. So you guys keep doing your thing. And I was joking with Kevin earlier. I was like, I know you guys are struggling. I'm gonna go buy a bunch of hats and I'll just be everybody's super fan. Maybe I'll go the cheaper route, go with pom poms. But I love talking football with you guys. So I always keep tabs on your team. So
Nice. Well, hey, we'll have you on again for sure, man.
All
I
right,
definitely
guys.
appreciate it.
all the
If we
best,
head
bro.
out for sure. But
All right.
thanks,
Take care,
man.
guys.
Thanks, Cody.
Okay. For everyone else, man, thanks for tuning in. A little bit longer of a show, but week 1, really good deep dive because there's just a lot to talk about. So many unknowns with this team. So again, make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel. Make sure you're following us on all the other social media accounts. Check out all of our other Broncos content. We are finally pushing back out to you guys starting this week, and get ready for it because Sunday will be here before you know it, guys. Get ready for it. And I have nothing left to say other than end it, guys, as we always do, on a very strong Go Broncos.
Go Broncos.
Take care, everyone.
Do what I like, yeah, I do what I like, yeah, I do what I like. Sip and go, sip is right, and I go with the flow, yeah, I go with the flow, yeah, I go with the flow, cause I know I'm the show. In the zone, here I go, in the zone.